The whole framework started with consciousness of human species. As a human being, what we are, as a human being, how we are simply responding to the situations, environment, circumstances. In that, we have discussed right from day one that as a human beings, we are into layers. As in the study and the research and the medical, we do this separative study and then we bring it together to understand it. In the same way, I have literally mentioned about the layers of human consciousness. The first layer was physical consciousness, wherein our physical body, flesh and bone, comes into the picture. This first layer of consciousness is mostly mastered by doctors. They can cut you open, they can stitch you back, you are still alive. To that advancement we have achieved. But is that enough for whatever we are yearning for, whatever we are looking for? That's where we look into what else are we. The moment we ask the question, are we just flesh and bones or are we more than that? We come to the next awareness or the consciousness that is about, I have a mind, I have a brain that processes. I have a hardware plus I have a software too. So the moment it comes to the mind is all about a certain brain, our nervous system connecting to the whole biochemicals and neurochemicals in the body, which generate certain kind of hormones and balances the body in a certain way. That mind consciousness is all about, again, trying to bring balance at every level. Your physical body is also trying to do the same. Your mind or the mind consciousness is also trying to do the same, trying to push in signals from different kind of manifestations in the body. It could be diabetes, it could be hypertension, it could be pain, it could be migraine. It's simply telling you something is not happening somewhere in the whole consciousness, and that needs to come to balance. To bring back wellness in these two dimensions, which are very physical in nature, mostly doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, we simply resort to medicine. And then medicine has its own advantages, disadvantages. That's not, again, a whole package wherein the well-being can be bought in. That's where we literally explore what else can bring balance, and that's where the awareness expands and we enter into the zone of subconscious mind consciousness. Now it is a lot in talks, conversations, and trending, wherein we look into what is subconscious mind, what it is all about. That is where the whole thing, as we have discussed in our previous sessions, automaticity comes into the picture. How many things have become automatic? And that automated system, how is it serving me? How is it not serving me? And I've also emphasized that until and unless we stand on extremes of good and bad, right and wrong, positive and negative, we are on extremes. Life happens in the middle. Life is literally a balance of extremes. The moment we push in the extremes to the balance, that's where the life happens. Subconscious mind consciousness is all about, as looking at it from a Vedic perspective, it is divided into 4 major dimensions, as we have discussed in previous talks. I'm just briefing it up, not going into the details. The first is intellect, our 5 senses, through which we perceive, through which we take signals. It's an input kind of mechanism. And the moment the input kind of mechanism is there within us, we have second dimension, which is known as identity. I have emphasized this a lot in all of the talks. However we identify ourselves, we project our behaviors, we project our personality. Not only personality and behaviors, but each and every chemical in the body happens as per how you identify yourself. If my identification is a doctor and I identify myself as a doctor, holding a scalpel would be an easy thing for me. And I'll be doing whatever I'm doing with efficiency. I have seen people, after studying the whole doctorate, after going to ABC, XYZ trainings and everything, as they don't identify themselves as a doctor, they are unable to do whatever they are supposed to do. So the resonance of my identity, wherever I resonate with, however I identify myself as, literally projects my behavior, my personality, my actions, my decisions, my choices. They are all fully dependent on how I identify myself as. A generally used term, which we call as ego. I have also emphasized that there is no such thing as ego, but it is also an identity. So it's an identity, how we identify ourselves. I am something. And me, because I am something, I should be getting this response. It's my expectations. And my desires comes into the picture because I identify myself as. So my identification plays a very important and major role. The next thing in that same consciousness is my storage. Right from the birth till now, whatever I have stored in form of experiences, memories, happiness, my securities, my insecurities, certainties, uncertainties, everything that is stored as my experience is part of that storage. And that storage also plays a major role in my projection as a human being. How I project as a personality, how I project my behaviors, how I behave with people around, how I behave with myself. Everything is as per my storage. And the fourth dimension, which is much more spiritual in nature, which is much more etheric in nature, as we are five-dimensional being, where ether is also a very, very important essence of the combination that we are, that is intelligence. So the journey is all about from intellect to intelligence. Intellect could be a dimension wherein I am putting my conscious effort to make my choices and decisions. So my five senses are playing a role to simply take in the input, my calculations, my analysis, my ABC, XYZ, then I make a decision, then I make a choice. I think. When I have a plate in front of me to eat, I see, I smell, I feel, I eat, I get the taste, I get the experience, I feel fulfilled. These are the process of intellect, let's say, for example. A whole lot of process which is in the dimension of intelligence is also vibrating within us. You are eating an apple. Within 12 to 24 hours, apple is getting converted into you. Are you thinking about that? The food is getting digested. Whatever proteins, nutrients are required, the body is taking it. Whatever is not required, it is getting excreted. Are you thinking about it? A whole lot of things that happens in the body, right from what you eat and converted into your blood, your flesh, your muscles, your bone and your bone marrow, and each and every fluid that is there in the body, it is happening in the zone of intelligence without you putting a single thought, isn't it? Are you putting any single thought for that? Everything is happening. Is it asking you how to convert an apple into you? It's happening. This is the open potential for human beings. This is what needs to be acknowledged, recognized, and should be at the surface all the time as a potential to tap in. And the next dimension in this whole series, we have discussed that it's in spiritual consciousness. I have mentioned this, that as we have an immune system in our physical essence, and if the immune system is vibrating at the highest potential, even if I consume poison, my immune system can nullify it. If I turn right means it should go right. So technically what you are doing is you are adding meanings to things, or you are adding a programming to things. This is where the whole dimension of how many things are programmed automatically, how many things I am programming consciously. That's the whole question all about bringing the alignment and calibration to our dimensions. So today also we'll look into how many things are happening automatically, how many things are I'm consciously choosing and making a conscious or informed choices. Because the whole balance and disbalance, the pain and the pleasure, the good and the bad that happens in our lives, it's all about what is happening automatically, what I'm choosing. I assume that every one of us will agree that whatever is not happening, whatever is not making me happy, whatever is not serving me, we are not choosing it, isn't it? If I ask each and every one of you, do you want to be happy today? What will be your answer? Yes, isn't it? What about tomorrow? Tomorrow also you want to be happy? What about day after tomorrow? Day after tomorrow also you want to be happy. Is it happening? Consciously, I want to be happy, isn't it? This should happen. Means I'm hitting the brake, means car should stop. Car is not stopping. That's the whole tragedy all about. So in this whole tragic events, I have given different tools wherein we can simply bring this consciousness to the surface. And one of those tools were certain meditations that we have practiced, and a whole dimension of expansion of identities. What do I identify myself as? Who am I as a person? So I could identify myself as a name which was given by my parents. I could identify myself as a brother, a husband, a father, a colleague, a friend, or ABC XYZ as per my profession, a doctor, a psychologist, or. All these identifications, is it serving me? Is it bringing that happiness? or one of these identities are misaligned, or is it not serving me? And I have given a whole lot of examples. Excuse me, and please refer to the videos which are there on the videos, YouTube. You will get a more clear idea. So the emphasis is upon what is happening automatically, what is happening consciously. That's the whole gist of all these things. And that is what life is all about. And one more thing that I have given as a formula was affirm to yourself that life is easy. Yeah. The moment you are affirming to yourself life is easy, automatically, whatever your life journey, life history is, you will have 10,000 different automated internal dialogues. Why life is not easy. I have suggested that please list down all those internal dialogues which tells you life is not easy. That's the whole journey. That's the whole work that we are looking towards. That self-work, whatever it could be. It could be therapeutic. It could be certain actions, certain choices, certain identifications that needs to come to an alignment. Why we are talking about anxiety? What it is doing to us? What is it impacting? Or what are the things that it is impacting in our lives? So the moment we say anxiety, depression, stress, these are the things that are happening. It starts with as simple as my blood pressure going up, digestion issues, and the list of all these things. So as a doctor, you will agree that these things, when we are treating, we are simply treating the symptom. We are not treating the cause of it. Because the major element that we have is what is causing it. Most of the time, as we are looking through the scope of science or medicine and all those things, we might come to a point where we say, okay, this is causing this and let us treat this. Mostly viruses, mostly bacteria, certain disbalance in body, certain disbalance in the chemicals in the body. But the question is, what is creating those shifts? What is creating those changes? And in that context, we have discussed that those things that are getting into disbalance have a hierarchy of a stimuli that is creating a certain thought, which could be automated, and those thoughts which are shadows, which are an element and which is creating a shadow which we call as emotion. So my emotions, the moment I am in the zone of emotions, my emotions will be programming my energy within me, around me. That's the whole dimension which we call as intelligence. We as a human beings, it's not just flesh and bones that we are looking at. We are a whole lot of things. We are very much aware about the Earth as a planet, and there are different zones around the Earth. There are different spheres. There is an ozone layer. What those things does for us as a planet? It saves a whole lot of things, isn't it? Specifically the electromagnetic field that we have around the planet, it saves a whole lot of meteor shower to come in, and it will simply repel it. Similar mechanism, because this body is also Earth. We are walking, talking Earths. Literally, on the planet, we are planet itself. A certain mechanism is there around us. A certain electromagnetic field which literally saves us from a whole lot of things, physical, metaphysical in nature. If that is disbalanced, you will have a meteor shower. This is what is happening most of the time. We are overwhelmed by people around us. And new trending concept of save myself, love myself, eliminate toxic people, create boundaries, these are coming into the picture. So when you do all these things, what you are doing is you are creating another layer of coping mechanism, not solution or a resolution. You are simply entering into the zone of let me create my reality without having the collective consciousness into the picture. That is where the depression doubles. It's not going out. Because the natural system, as we have discussed in previous talks also, trillions and trillions of the cells in the body lives as a community. And I have given an example also that in this community, just imagine if some people are confused. What will they do to the society? If some people become suppressive, what will happen to the collective society? If some people become overexpressive, what will happen to the society? Similar things are happening within you because your immune system is getting confused, suppressed, or overexpressive. That is where the whole list of psychosomatic or autoimmune disorders comes into the picture. So the whole zone is all about what is programming that. And I have also given one simple term, that is automaticity and mindfulness. So until and unless we are programmed automatically, a whole lot of things will drive you. Things will drive you because Earth has a theme of somehow moving to the next level of evolution. With you, without you, doesn't matter. It has to move to the next level. You have seen the zone of evolution itself, from dinosaurs till now, from the dark ages to AI. We are here. We are here, and whoever has been surviving or is today alive are those species or those elements or those chromosomes who were flexible enough to adapt. We are here with adaptability. We have adapted. We have been flexible. And if anything goes against the theme of creation, which we have discussed in detail, the whole zone is all about if I am going against the theme of creation and simply becoming more rigid, not flexible, not adaptable. The Earth as a planet has its own theme to make you extinct. Yeah? So it doesn't ask you before it makes you extinct. It will simply do in form of corona. Yeah? And only sane people, wise people will remain. This has been theme over ages. Whoever or whatever takes the charge to make advancements or to create whatever it is today into a better tomorrow have the right to survive and go ahead. This is the theme of creation. And this is what I have been emphasizing. Never disregard the theme of creation as you are living life. Because most of the time we are into theme of trends, into the theme of philosophies, into the theme of ABC, XYZ coping mechanisms that we have created. Coming back to stress, anxiety, let me make it simple. Because again, one of those things that we have been emphasizing is simplicity. We are already a complex being, but the operation is very simple. In the zone of complexity, somewhere we have lost the simplicity. The second thing that we have lost is depth because of the speed that we have achieved. We are moving fast, losing the whole depth of the beauty that was around us to be incorporated. So always remember this, we need depth for each and everything. If you are simply looking at stress, anxiety or depression, you will find a whole lot of different definitions on Google or here and there. So these are the things that I have, collected. But the thing that I want to simply draw a line between is present, past, and future. Your thoughts, your emotions, and all those elements that we have been discussing, placing them in the zone of present, past, or future. Stress is or worries are mostly current, present related stories. And if you would have noticed in life, we are simply like in misery and crying about a whole lot of things. The first thing that we need to check within ourselves, the questions that I have given day one, all those questions applies here. One of the questions was, is it a current affair? Is it today's story? Let me give you an example. Let's say our miseries are, or our misery or the whole zone of misery is, there is a big tree and the whole tree is full of thorns. And these thorns are so painful, the moment I am reaching the tree to grab a fruit from that tree, it's simply going through me and I am painful. That is my cry, that is my misery of today. My question would be, is this a one-day job or a current affair or a present issue? Or you have literally watered this tree. It was a plant one day, isn't it? It was a seed. You watered it. You nurtured it. Literally now it has become a tree. You have never checked when those thorns were growing up. Now the whole misery is all about this tree is painful for me. So first of all, let's reframe this dialogue in our minds that whatever is happening today is my yesterday's story, with the potential to do something else today to create a different tomorrow. That should be the potential, that should be the dialogue, that should be internal dialogue. It should be programmed on all the neural network in our system. The neural network should hold this information that whatever I am in pain, pleasure, whatever it is, good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter. Whatever I do today in a different way that I have been doing yesterday, I'll not do it today to create a different tomorrow. Make sense? So when we are talking or looking at anxiety, it is just like this. Let's say my mind or my brain or my nervous system has a capacity to process around 60 to 75,000 thoughts per day. Yeah, it differs from research to research. So let's say it has that capacity to process a number of thoughts. Let's say 70,000, 75,000 thoughts. But what is happening is I'm overwhelmed with thoughts itself. If I'm counting, there are not so many issues in my life. It could be one issue, two issue, three issue. Whenever I see a client, they say, I'm going through anxiety. Doctor told me that I'm depressed. They are giving me antidepressants now. My first question would be, how many issues you have in life? So many. I literally tell them, okay, let's have a list of those so many things. I'm very patient enough. Let's have, if it is 200, 250, it doesn't matter. Let's list them down. You won't believe, I haven't seen people going beyond number 7. Not more than 7 issues in life. Maximum, in my experience, in my practice, maximum was 7. Beyond 7, they don't go. They start with relationships are my issues, career not growing is my issue, finances not coming in my issue. Then they have to think. Then they'll think, oh, no, that my neighbor also is also here. And that person somewhere there, and that politician also, and that movie I have seen last week, that also adds to that. This is where we draw a line between relevant and irrelevant perceptions. What are the things that are relevant absolutely, and what are the things that are not relevant? So let's again do this thing and reframe again an internal dialogue within our mind. How many problems do I have in my life? From so many to literally list it down, 1, 2, 3 or 4. And keep repeating to yourself, I have only 4 issues, I have only 5 issues, I have only 6 issues, 7 issues, whatever it is. When you start repeating this, you will notice immediate change in your biochemicals and neurochemicals. When you simply give the signal. Why this is happening? Because as I just mentioned, that your brain processes, let's say, 60,000 thoughts per day. The moment it doesn't find a resolution or a solution for that one issue or one thought, it goes in a loop. This loop can simply come back 100,000 times. So one thought can become 100,000 thoughts. That is anxiety. The moment my one thought, not finding a resolution or a solution, becoming 100,000 thoughts, technically, psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, we call it anxiety. Other than that, please remove all the meanings and names from anxiety. It's simply a loop of one unresolved issue, challenge, or thought in my life. The door or the journey starts from my stress, my anxieties, my thoughts, not getting a resolution, not finding any solution for whatever challenges that I have, and I have been postponing it, coping up with certain things, and simply pulling it like a chewing gum, stretching it. And then your body gets a signal, this person is not doing anything. I have signaled this person in form of migraine, in form of thyroid, in form of heaviness in the chest, in form of frozen shoulder. This person is not listening to me. Again and again, person is simply taking a Panadol or something. I say, let me simply pull all the hormones down, switch it off. That is what you call as depression. What is common in this is again that immune system or trillions of cells, a community of people who are confused. What is this person doing? We as an individual, and that community of our trillions of cells is suppressed or overexpressing itself. That is what is creating the whole depressive state or all those list of autoimmune disorders. Clear till here? So rather than now, from today itself, let's make this a point and make this a signal to each and every neural circuit in our mind. Anxiety, stress, depression is nothing but my past, my present, and my future. Make it simple. The moment your mind perceives it, oh, it's simple to process, it will have a door of potential opened for the solution. Otherwise, it will have generalized words. everything, so many, all the time, all the people, always. And you will add those words as, I'm always suffocated. All the people around me are like this. Every time this is what is happening to me. What do you think will be result? The result would be immediately depression, anxiety, or whatever it is. And no matter how many antidepressants you take it, until and unless this dialogue is there in your mind, and again one more dialogue comes into mind. So many medicines I have taken already. Nothing is happening. So two generalizations there. So many, nothing. So come out of these generalizations, please. Watch your language. Listen to yourself. How many things are we generalizing? Because anxiety, stress, depression is the issue of generalization. Whatever I am generalizing in my life, whatever I am literally exaggerating unnecessarily. That is where I have given all the list of identity and the ingredients of identity that you should add or remove to have a proper communication. And let me again repeat this. Communication 100% is my responsibility, rather than the MBA definition of 50% mine, 50% yours. I mean, my responsibility is to tell you, your responsibility is to listen to me and follow. If you don't follow, your problem. Please switch that off. If a person is not understanding in a certain way, at least have 10 different approaches and options to make him understand. 100% responsibility of a communication is with the communicator. Until unless you take that responsibility, you will keep on drawing those boundaries. I've told him several times. Count it how many times. I'm sure it's not more than 3 to 4 times. He's not listening. She is not listening. She and he is a toxic person. Have to be out of my zone because I am such a pure and purity and whatever. Self-inflated identity. I'm such a positive person. I don't want negative people to be around me. So I have to simply draw a line, distance myself from negative people. And then there will be a whole big differentiation. And believe me, these people who have separated themselves will go to hell first. Yeah. So that is where, please, make communication your responsibility. If some person is not understanding, that means he or she is differently sensitive. They are born in a different zone of sensitivity. A certain person, if simply you look at them, they'll understand why you are looking at them. They are sensitive people. Some people, if you look at them, they'll simply stare you back. They don't understand. You have to tell them. That's a different level of sensitivity. Some people are in such a thick skin or whatever you call it, they won't even listen, they won't even give any response, whatever you do. You have to simply take another approach. That is where the whole training in psychology and the classical applied psychology and everything is all about the stages of development and how people are developing as per their sensitivities. So the highlight thing there to be understood or to be brought to the light is how people are differently sensitive and addressing the sensitivity rather than the behaviors. And I've also emphasized, please don't judge people on behaviors. Always look into intentions. Sensitivity is all about my perception, my receptivity, how I receive. You might have noticed in HR specifically, this is very common. There are different people from different nationalities. If I tell them with a certain tonality of my voice, they literally take it to the heart. Oh, my boss screamed at me. Screaming means, for him, a sensitive person, I have done something wrong, I am not worthy, I am not belonging here, or ABCXY. A person belonging to another nationality. You scream at him, you pull his ear, it doesn't matter. My boss is a good person, he always keeps on motivating me like this. These are two different sensitive people. Now, a boss or a leader's job is to address the sensitivity rather than the behavior. If he simply taps in as per the sensitivity, he'll push the right button. If not, you will be hitting the wrong button and you will be spoiling your name, you will be spoiling the team. If I'm clear or if I'm having a clarity, you will notice that those things will not be there. A certain ingredients that are to be avoided are these. Because this is a very natural phenomena which will be occurring if you are in an automated system and if you are stressed, if you are anxious, or if you are going through depression. The basic element is anger, and the expansion of anger is all about there is somebody to be blamed for my miseries. I'm not wrong. I'm angry because. Literally check that. I'm angry because, and check the list. What comes in the list? You will notice that they are either the people, or if you don't find the people, you will literally blame the bigger picture. All the people are like this. Everything happens in this way. All the time it is like that. It's very difficult for me. I cannot tolerate. Yeah? And these dialogues will literally take you into a zone of unresourcefulness. You will lose all the resources. The moment your mind loses the resourcefulness, it will lose the creativity immediately. And if you are not creative, it creates a void and emptiness. It is just like you are hungry and you are not feeding yourself. How you feel if you are hungry and you are not feeding yourself? So hunger literally craves, isn't it? A thirst. So if that zone is void, that zone is empty, it will keep on disturbing you. It will not allow you to do anything in life. So it's simply a zone of, I have lost my creativity because I have lost the resourcefulness. So the ingredient could be guilt. This comes from, again, people might label it as altruistic ego or different forms of ego. I have always simplified it and seen it as my identity. How do I see myself? I think in one of the talks I have emphasized that if I am having the superiority complex, it starts with inferiority complex. I feel that I am low. My self-esteem is very low. I feel myself, or I have been felt because people around me made me feel like that. I go into the zone of guilt. I simply blame myself for everything. No, I'm to be blamed. Always check why I am having that dialogue, whatever dialogue I have, and how it serves me. Because every intention is positive and it serves me in some or the other way. Consciously or unconsciously, those behaviors are giving me pleasure somewhere. So if I'm tapping into, this is a behavior that creates misery in me and creates misery in people around me, how is it serving me is the question that you should be asking. Make sense? The next zone is helplessness. Helplessness is all about, again, exaggerating things out of proportion. Keep it, whatever it is, however it is. In India, we say, Rai ka pahad. Don't make that. Let things, if they are small, let it be small. And on the other hand, there is an identity which will literally pull you into this. Simply like this. If I tell you, take this road, start from DIFC and go straight, no left, no right, and go to MOE. You don't have to go anywhere. Straight road, no left, no right, start from here, stop here. Now a certain identity tells, what is this? Anybody can do this. What's a big deal? Let me show you. I'll simply start and I'll make a big jalebi. The whole vortex and a different kind of designs and patterns and everything. And then I reach there. And I want somebody to simply tap my back and say that what a miserable job I have done. Anybody can, just tell me if anybody can do this. I have done that. Difficult thing. So you are simply romanticizing your miseries. This could become a pattern right from the childhood if the parenting is not in the right place. Children, when they grow up, they go into the pattern that easy things nobody appreciates. If I am doing a simple thing, my father says, my mother says, my teacher says, my neighbor says, what have you done? But if I do difficult things, everybody will appreciate me. This becomes literally a PAB, passive aggressive behavior. You literally want to create pain to yourself and reach somewhere and expecting that my parents, my teachers, my elders, my neighbors appreciate me for the miseries that I have been through. An automated system without the consciousness, without the informed choices, which comes into the picture. That my wants, my needs, my priorities, my values, my perceptions, they are all variable. They are not fixed. All these things should be variable, should not be fixed. If this is fixed, just imagine. My values, my needs, my perceptions. This means this. This is where I have given another framework which is known as differentiation between universal truths and perceptual truths. Always have it in the surface of your mind. Whatever I am thinking, is it a universal truth or a perceptual truth? A universal truth is sun rises from the east. Check each and every of your truths or perceptual truths against that. Is it as true as that? Or it can be changed. It can be something else. In that same line, we have discussed about inhibitions. Sarcasm is a new word today, and the vocabulary we are changing anyways. Sarcasm is something that people think that I have become a poet in. When I sarcastically address people in a certain way, they think that sense of, I'm a big poet, I can use the words in a certain way, and let me do this. I want you to check how much energy is required to put any conversation in a sarcastic way. What kind of programming you need to have in your mind? What kind of feelings you need to push? Even though it is happening like this for the people who are very good at sarcastic conversations, but imagine what kind of programming they have already programmed in their neural circuits. And the simple question is pain or pleasure? Check their lives. Is it miserable or is it happy? Yes.
How would you react to the statement that has been made quite a few times in political papers that sarcasm is actually an expression of intellect?
Sorry, can I have it again?
Quite oftentimes, they say that sarcasm, or the ability to express in sarcastic ways, is actually one of the signs at the surface of a deeper intelligence than...
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. People perceive themselves as poet. They think that I have become somebody, which is my intellect for sure. But my question is it helping you? Is it creating peace within you?
Yeah, so I'll to interrupt as well. I've actually learned from my dad that sarcasm is the lowest form of wit. So that's the other way of it.
And on the other hand, I mean, like if we are seeing it from the energy perspective, it's the lowest vibrating frequency. Or it sometimes goes into minus.
Does it not take more energy to be sarcastic?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Exactly. So let's say.
But it becomes a pattern, I guess, for some people.
Yes. Exactly. So it happened to me itself. I was working on a website and I have my team. I have a person who is very much, like. So straight away you can say that this is not happening, please do this. Other than that, I have sent you this 5 days back. Then pause. That pause itself is burning you and burning the other person. So please be aware and be conscious about this, that being sarcastic needs a lot of energy, which literally burns your RBCs. I mean blood. Literally it will burn your blood. Yes.
I consider myself to be quite sarcastic.
Yes.
What if it makes you feel good?
It will make you feel good for sure. I'm not doubting about it.
It is actually one of the best ways to feel good.
Yes.
In a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
I don't consider it to be a coping technique. I
Yes.
express myself through sarcasm to
Yes.
other people.
No, it is not a coping technique at all. It is an expression. It is a communication. What is the age now? 29. I'll simply get back to you when you are 45 and continue the same pattern and we'll check your blood. Yes, we have a senior person here.
I'm pretty sure that caffeine will have something to do with that.
So what I'm saying is, yes. No, what I'm saying is, as you are growing up, you have a whole lot of energy. And there is identification. I don't want to put it in the zone of inflated identity or misaligned identity. It's an identity that I identify myself as. However I identify myself as, my projection of behavior happens accordingly. And what I'm doing is I'm projecting without conscious consequences of what is happening around me. Now, if there is a sensitive person around you, he will have a heart attack with that same sarcasm. Who will take that responsibility? So communication is a very beautiful thing. You can communicate with love, compassion, and harmony. So what you need to simply insert or install in you is, let me reframe my word thinking that if I am receiving this, how would I like to receive?
But it is something. If you're always tiptoeing, yes, I understand communication and clarity is a responsibility, but what does that do to authenticity then?
See, authenticity can also be communicated in a proper way. You don't have to go through the door of sarcasm. Let's say if you want to say on a face that you are this, say it.
No. And I'm talking, you said, what will happen to the other person?
Yes.
The other person has a choice. He can have a heart attack or she or not.
Yeah, they can improve also.
Heart attack,
And I absolutely agree with you that they might improve also. And I have many students getting the sarcasm from teachers and simply improving themselves. My zone is all about what is happening to the teacher.
no, I'm sort of picking up on that conversation. Sorry if I forgot your
No, please, go ahead.
I'm of the opinion that there's too many triggers in the public space.
Mhm.
People are too refraining
Yes.
from actually expressing anything along the lines of
Yes.
personal values these days. They have to harmonize towards whatever is the common line. And by suppressing sarcasm, by suppressing a higher register of vocabulary, and by always having to sort of frame back on inhibitions,
Mhm.
I think that's going to lead to a significant crisis down the line, rather than something that's actually going to lead to a better way of communicating.
Beautiful, beautiful. See, you have used all those words, inhibitions. People who are not receptive, let's say, they have their own opinions. They have ABC, XYZ. It's all about external reality, isn't it? So it's a zone where you are perceiving the external reality in a certain way. In that zone, you are pressurizing yourself because you want to prove a point. My humble question is just this. Can you prove that point in a different way so that it doesn't burn your blood? I'm not concerned about the people. As an individual, if it saves your blood, because I'm technically telling, and doctor would agree with that, it will literally burn your blood. It is a carbon. No, because to be sarcastic, I need my adrenaline glands to secrete all the adrenalines and cortisols in the blood. Until and unless I have that full amount of cortisols in my blood, I cannot communicate like that. Cortisols means carbon in my blood, which is burning my RBCs and each and everything. The immune system will get confused because it is not made for that. The whole programming, the trillions of cells in the body, is programmed to be in harmony. This is the whole zone of theme of creation rather than theme what we have created. Yeah? I hope that.
It's a discussion I could probably have.
Yeah, we can have this discussion. No, see, my concern is you. My concern is not the other people. What I'm saying is you are young. You won't feel the difference. But if you continue this for next 10 years, you will see the difference.
But if you're talking about harmony, that's if you look at the political correctness, that's artificial harmony. That's not harmony either.
Then I agree with you. Again, that's why I don't enter into the zone of political correctness or this correctness or that correctness. We as a human being should stand at the point of, this is the theme of creation, this is the theme of trends. What am I following? Am I following the theme of creation, or am I following whatever I have created? And whatever you have created is coming out of inhibitions, uncertainties, fears, survival, my pleasure, my control, my love, loving myself. All these are the ingredients. I want those zones to be fulfilled. I want myself to be surviving at any cost and every cost. I want pleasures no matter what.
Is it challenging though when you talk about theme of creation, when we're in like a society and culture where we have to do stuff that is probably not aligned with your theme of creation, because we're having to work within an economic culture in which we have to earn money, so we have to do things that are probably moving away from the theme of creation.
See, absolutely. I agree with all those models and modes that we have bought in as a zone of inhibition and coping and survival. The whole zone is all about, in that whole zone that we have created, if you simply take the ratio, what is the ratio of happiness and misery? How many people are happy? How many people are miserable? If you say that I've bought this whole economical system, political system, and this, and if only 10% people are happy and 90% people are miserable, then I have to think about it. Isn't it?
Do you think the numbers are to be trusted? People have these sort of tendencies to express anxiety and sort of depression.
See, I literally, I still see around 6.5 people per day. So in a month, I see around 500 people coming from different nationalities, color, creed, and sensitivities. If the problem is just one, same, and coming back to the same point, me as a research student, I literally look into the ingredients. What are the ingredients into this? And ingredients are simply just this. The people who wants to hold on to that zone of superiority. I am something. And when I am something, you should be behaving to me like this. This literally goes against the theme of creation. And believe me, Earth has its own theme to simply balance it, which we are unaware most of the time. Yeah. So each and every, let's say it is depression, it is anxiety, it is stress or worry, whatever it is, let it open a door for solution, not just for me, for everyone. So people who come with stress and anxiety and depression, I literally tell them that if you acknowledge and if you simply explore the ingredients of what is creating this, you will not only be helping yourself, but you will be helping a whole lot of people who are creating this anxiety, let's say. And if you simply take the ratio of happy, misery, productivity, or whatever, those HR terms are there, you will come to the same point. That's why we are teaching EQ now. Emotional quotient is trending. Why? Why do we need emotional quotient today? Because a whole lot of suppression is coming to the surface in a wrong way. That's why, to simply balance that, we have inserted EQ. So that the person who is suppressive should understand emotion, the person who is suppressing should understand the emotion of others. Yeah? EQ itself will simply prove that whatever was happening was not balanced. That's why we have to push EQ into the zone. See, the moment collective consciousness comes into the picture, it's about self-awareness. Let me push it in from the perspective of EQ itself, emotional quotient. When you are entering into the dimension of self-awareness, the first awareness that I am tapping into, or I should be tapping into, is understanding myself. When I understand myself, I simply consider this as a first point, that in my body there are trillions and trillions of cells, let's say. And the theme of these cells, or the natural theme of this planet, is ease, vitality, health, and happiness. This is the natural theme of this planet. If these people within my body are not in harmony, this is where I am getting diseases and disorders. Let's say if some part of my body is paining, means that community of my cells is not happy at that point. Now, if I am addressing the pain in my finger, what I would be doing? Will I be applying compassion, love, and certain things which should bring harmony, or I straight away decide to cut it off? What will I do? I literally do everything so that this becomes again a part of me without giving me any pain, isn't it? So I'll do everything that should bring harmony to this. Let's say my kidneys are paining. I'll go to the kidney doctor. I'll literally refer to 5 doctors. I'll simply try to fix it. Exactly. Now when I'm applying it to the community, when people are creating pain to me, you want to cut it off. It will be same pain as you will cut off your organ or part of the body. That's the whole thing. And I have seen people who are coming with this concept. You simply, as you're a doctor, you will understand this more. Simply check the client or the patient for 2 years who has just started this concept of self-love, boundaries. Check the results in 2 years. Depressed, anxiety, they are on antidepressants, unable to sleep, the whole digestive system got out of boom. Why is this happening? I'm loving myself, I'm taking care of myself, I'm simply doing everything that can make myself happy. I'm getting rid of all the toxic people around me. I know who are toxic people, who are unhealthy people, who are negative people. I have simply drawn a line. I should feel happy now, isn't it? I'm not feeling happy.
You're spending energy in that.
I am fully focused about. See, this whole concept has started because I have been studying this as a whole movement of evolution. This has started with the consciousness of certain people in the society and community are suppressed. For them, they have introduced this concept that you should be aware of yourself. It was extreme cases of people who had absolutely dysfunctional families. In that, psychology have to push this concept of self-love because there was no other way. Now, unfortunately and tragically, what happened is, these people were influential people. They said that I got of it because I loved myself. This is the philosophy now. Everybody do the same thing. Now, it will become dysfunctional because that's the concept, trending concept now. Because I will say that I felt happy and that happiness is just for 3 months, that's a placebo in the first place. You'll say that I felt so happy, loving myself, caring myself and this. Check after 2 years, you will know it. Same people are on antidepressants. They don't know why. Because they are saying, we have done everything, we have pushed all the buttons. Still depressed. That's the point of questioning. What have I done wrong? Because while I was separating myself from toxic people and ABC, XYZ, I have separated myself from everything. It's like I have chopped myself.
But then what made the same situation dealing with toxic people and
That's the whole game. They are not toxic people at all. It's my reception. See, the reception that I have received them as a toxic people is my problem, not their problem. They are simply expressing themselves. Yes, please.
Obviously, what you're talking about is like elements of control, like being able to control as much as you physically can. What I'm really interested in, where do you, how do you help people? Because I think everyone needs a space where they understand there's like a limitlessness that we don't really understand, something that's out of our control, uncertainty. Where do you kind of package that for people who want to try and control? As you said, I've controlled all these things, but there's still this thing inside me that's not happy. How do you like give them that or make them understand that?
See, when we talk about the control itself, the disbalance there is just this. When I'm having a control over certain things, what is controlling me is also in the whole zone of interest. So, okay, I have control there. What is controlling me? So, when what is controlling me is in the picture, if that is painful itself, now what I am controlling or what I am inhibiting myself is coming out of my pain mechanism, avoiding the pain. So what I am doing is I am doing my best to avoid the pain in all the scenarios. So I am simply drawing inhibition after inhibition, borders after borders, lines after lines. My intention is to simply be safe because I am motivated by pain itself. My pain mechanism is pushing this. It's a natural coping mechanism that I am doing out of it. But my intention is to simply feel happy at the end of the whole process. That is not happening. That's a tragedy. Because nobody told them that the theme is all about an individual as a human being is finite. It's a finiteness consciousness, isn't it? The moment I acknowledge myself as I am finite. I am finite in my projections, my receptions, my behaviors, my thinking, my emotions. Everything is finite. I cannot see through this wall. How I can see through your behavior or your emotion, what is happening inside? Until and unless I develop that EQ in me, that I understand if you are miserable, if you are toxic, why you are toxic, and how I can help, the solution cannot come to the table. What is happening is, I acknowledge and recognize that you are toxic. First thing is, I want to run from that zone. I have identified you are toxic, you are negative, you are this. I don't have anything to do with you. Means, let me chop off my hand. And then I want to feel happy after chopping. Will it happen? These are the coping mechanisms out of inhibitions. What is motivating me is my pain, not the collective consciousness. That's why I always say it's not about competition, it's about collaboration. It's about contribution. It's about cooperation. Rather than compete and draw a line and be safe. Unless until we do, see, literally as per the yogic sciences, we are moving into the light era. The era of light, we call it Sat Yoga in Sanskrit. So we are moving towards that dimension. This consciousness is very natural to surface. Whatever we are talking today, whatever we are discussing today, it's all about to bring that EQ to the topmost level. We used to hear this. I mean, in my childhood, I used to hear this 25 years back, 30 years back. Love thy neighbors. And they used to love. They used to take care of the neighbors. There was no concept of anxiety, depression in those days. There were solutions and resolutions. If I have a problem, I have a solution. I have 10 neighbors who could have solved this thing like this. I have elders within my house who will give the solution to this. Now I am fully independent with everything that I have to do. I'll cope up for sure. And me coping up comes from my painful zone. If I am painful within, if I am unresourceful, do you think resourcefulness will happen to me? Immediate shift of your neurochemicals and biochemicals, you will notice that. Just by repeating no, nothing else, no meanings attached to that. If you keep on repeating just no, you will notice what will happen in the body. The vocabulary plays such an important role. What I tell myself. How do I communicate with myself in the first zone? If that communication is proper, how I communicate with others would be harmony and beauty and bliss. If my communication within me is distorted, what will I communicate outside? Okay, so this is where, let's say, moving towards the resolution, or to give you some takeaways or start the journey, let's explore this. What are we as a human being? Are we just a cause and effect? Are we just a chemical compound? Are we just a programming, stereotype, instructions from the society? These are the things just to contemplate. Yeah? Now, let's bring this new awareness and let's put this information to our neural circuits. And this information is, I am able to, dash. Let's check what we are able to. Let's have one word from each and every one of you. I am able to, dash. Let's fill this. We'll start with Sharif. Sorry?
Conquer the world.
I'm able to?
Conquer the world.
Conquer the world. Awesome. I'm able to conquer the world. Rima.
Able to conquer Sharif's heart.
I'm able to conquer Sharif's heart. Awesome. Yes, I'm able to.
Help people reach their potential.
Able to help myself to reach the potential. Awesome.
I am able to be present.
I'm able to be present. Awesome.
I'm able to see my vision through.
I'm able to see my vision through. I'm able to think and feel. Awesome. I'm able to control my thoughts. Amazing. We'll come to you for classes. Teachers. Teach us all. I'm able to see changes. Okay. Okay. Awesome. I'm able to help people. Amazing.
I control my life and how.
I ask you what you are able to do. I'm not asking what you are unable to do.
Well, I'm able to. I don't know. I'm able to do things like control my work and stuff like that.
Control my work and stuff. Amazing. Awesome.
I'm able to be kind.
I'm able to be kind. Awesome. Amazing.
I'm able to dream.
I'm able to dream. Amazing. Awesome. Yes, Ken.
I'm able to be aware of my thoughts and choose which ones I want to believe.
I'm able to choose my thoughts and choose awareness is there. Amazing. Awesome. Now, why I ask this question is to simply show how complex we are. The moment I ask you what we are able to do, we simply went into the aeroplane jet, simply boom, 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 philosophies. I'm able to see, I'm able to hear, I'm able to smell, I'm able to taste, I'm able to touch and feel. Isn't it? As simple as that. This is literally the differentiation or the complexities that we have created in our lives. In the journey of complexities, we have lost the simplicities. The moment we are literally questioning ourselves, we simply want to go into the clouds. Look for the spirituality, simply stay there and ABCXY. Ungrounded. Isn't it? But this is just to bring back that simplicity. Check what is here. Check what is beside you. Yes, please.
If you're working with someone who is like struggling with maybe a purpose, what they feel their reasoning is for being here, and then you talk about actually we're seeing the world through these limited senses of sight and what
No, I'm not saying that. It's very awesome, whatever we have discussed. It's amazing that we have these abilities. The acknowledgement of we are able to do such a complex task. But where are we staying? Are we staying in the complexity or are we staying in the simplicity? It's amazing, whatever we are able to do. Awesome. I'm not against that. I'm not telling you don't be that. Please be that. Don't forget the simplicity. Because we have literally forgot the simplicity.
Changing your perspective now and then.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes. That's where the whole unrooting happens. If you are rooted, you are strong. This is actually the theme of creation. If you look at the nature, you will find it. The trees who has the strong roots, they are there. The nature is trying to teach us. Everything around you in this on this planet is to teach you something. And we are simply looking up. Yeah. So our ability, so let's say I'm able to see, I'm able to think, and everything that we have just discussed, awesome, amazing. What I want to simply take it or take your attention to is towards the stress, anxiety, and depression also. So simply call it your ability. I'm able to be anxious. It's your ability. If you have the ability to think, means you have the ability to be anxious. You have the ability to be whatever it is. Take charge first. It's my ability. If I lose this charge, anything will control me. It's just like an automated car. I might enjoy for some time, but let's say that automated car is not stopping now. It wants me to simply keep on driving me without leaving me to wherever I want to. So that is where you take charge and say, I am able to be in the zone of anxiety or ABCXY. Because I am able to do so many things. And each and every ability, if you look in the first list, I am able to visualize. I am able to imagine. Isn't it? Do you think any other species on this planet is able to do that? Imagination, visualization. It's a unique ability that we have. I'm able to simply take two elements and create the third element. I mean, I can take literally a blue color and an elephant and I can imagine a blue elephant. Isn't it? That's the ability of your mind. So your mind is able to do n number of things. If you are in charge, if you are in control, you can drive the car. Otherwise, anyhow, the car will drive you. So here the highlight is towards I should be able to identify myself. We need to work upon is our physical body, which is the first essence, the signaling device, which creates all the sensations in your body, all the reactions, the reactivity of your muscular memory and the cellular system is all about your physical body. So the first dimension to work upon is physical body itself. If you can simply keep your cellular memory and your muscular memory relaxed and calm, a whole lot of disturbances and reactivities will go down.
But we don't want to be totally stress-free. We give stress, and especially for certain professions where
Yeah. Yes. That is what we call EU stress. EU stress. It's a good stress. The stress, see, this is the whole beauty of the creation as we are as a human species. That these are the abilities that I have. I'm able to be stressed, let's say. The same thing, let's say I have a pen. I can write a beautiful poetry with that. I can use the same pen to murder someone. So whatever I'm able to do, I can create something beautiful out of it. I can create a disaster from the same thing. So things should be in a zone of acknowledging my movement as an evolutionary process, that as in I am evolving every second day or every next day, I should be a better version of myself. Doesn't matter if stress comes, doesn't matter if anxiety comes. This anxiety should make me a better person tomorrow. This stress, whatever I am in, this worry, whatever I am in, I should find a resolution or a solution to that. Not only applicable to me, I should contribute it to the society. Whatever I found the resolution with, whatever I found solutions to my anxieties, my stress, the first thing is I'll contribute. If you are going through the same thing, I'll help you with the same experience that I have had, and you please put your own experience to that. This is the whole collaborative theme. This is the whole collective consciousness that comes to the centralized zone to create ease, happiness. That's why that dialogue. Life is easy. EU stress is a good stress. The stress, the pressure that motivates me or makes me a beautiful person. And stress is where I'm not finding a resolution or a solution. Hyperstress happens when I have not found the resolution and I'm blaming it for everything externally. I'm not taking charge, I'm not taking the responsibility. I blame everything as a factor around me that is responsible, I'm not responsible. That is where the hyperstress happens, because you are fully out of resources in that zone of hyperstress. So these are some of the ingredients that you can take it handy. These are known as mind traps. And this is where the whole story starts. There is a negative self-talk. There is automaticity, which is what we call as habitual thinking, habitual behaviors, habitual processing. Everything that has being in the zone of automaticity, you have to check only just these two things, pain or pleasure. It can be debatable that pain also motivates me. That's where I have given this theme of growth and decay. So in life, you either grow or you decay. Choice is always yours. So there's negative interpretations. Luckily, it's all my responsibility within me. That's why I always keep on emphasizing that if I have some insecurities, it's my issue. If I have some fears, it's my problem. If I have some solutions towards this, it's my solution. Let's not make it a philosophy. Let's not paste it to everyone. And it applies on the reverse side also. Others' insecurities are their problems, not my problem. And whatever resources I have, I should integrate those resources to bring people out of it, if at all I want to. Otherwise, I stay within myself, not expanding my things to others. And in this one, again, one thing to emphasize is should, must, and have to as a vocabulary in life. So if you simply focus on these dialogues, the moment you hear it or the moment you utter it, should, must, have to, please avoid as much as possible. Use it in the positive, positive outreach or positive perspective. That should, must, have to should be there in the positive zones. Specifically while parenting, use a whole lot of should, musts, and have to that literally, poof, destroys the whole programming in the child. Even if you are saying something positive, take the responsibility and tell or deliver the message as I would like to, I would love to. It would be awesome if you do this, rather than saying should be doing this, must be doing this, have to do this. A natural resistance comes with these words. So linguistic vocabulary is a major element in programming or reprogramming or deprogramming things. So it's all about, let's say we have learned whatever we have learned. It could be a journey which could start today to unlearn. This I have been emphasizing. Let me go into details of this. The issue is the things that are not organized. And I've given the example of your cupboards in your house. When you do the laundry, if you simply keep your shirt separate and pants separate and everything in separate, shelves, next time you want a t-shirt, you'll put a hand with your closed eyes, you'll get that. But if you simply dump everything, boom, next time you want a shirt, you will end up with the wrong thing. Similar kind of organization needs to happen in your emotions. Anger, sadness, ABC, XYZ, whatever emotions that we go through, all those 205, 208 emotions, place it in certain way. And know where you have placed happiness, blissfulness, positivity, and everything. Next time, with closed eyes, you will have it. If you dump it, you look for happiness, you will end up with anger. You'll end up with sadness. That's the whole training of EQ literacy or emotional literacy. That is what we were talking about for the last 1 hour. EQ literacy is very, 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 you can add some more very, very, very there, important. And the second thing is mindfulness. That is a conscious, informed choices that I need to make rather than automaticity. And a simple shift of vocabulary from problems to challenges. It's as simple as, let's say, how many of you go to gym? All of us, huh? Awesome. So let's say I take that whole weight, whatever it is, and I ask you to simply, bring your hands forward and I put that weight on your hands like that. What would you call that weight? Burden. Then the coach comes in, puts a rod in between, and you are now using it like this. And you are developing a muscle with the same weight. Weight hasn't changed. Weight is same. What is done is simply a rod is placed in between and you are using the same weight to simply build your muscles now. Everything in our lives are in that way. You can simply take it as a problem or use the same thing to develop certain things in you, regardless of whatever name you give it. And I have also emphasized in previous talks, literally take the dictionary and eliminate or strike off the words such as good, bad, right, wrong, positive, negative. These are all laboratory purpose. In laboratory, awesome. When you apply it to life, doesn't work. Life itself is a phenomena. To support this, I have given one more example. 2 plus 2 is 4 is mathematics. Isn't it? 2 plus 2 is 4 is mathematics. If I say 2 plus 2 is 5, Sharif says it's possible. Possible as a potential. Now the whole zone is all about, I cannot agree 2 plus 2 is 5 because mathematically it's wrong. Isn't it? I agree with that. Mathematically 2 plus 2 is 4. My humble, genuine and very, question is just this. Are you living life or living mathematics? Life is a phenomena in itself. Mathematics is a phenomena in itself. Due to the complexity of our mind and ease in everything, we simply want things to be automated. So unfortunately and tragically, we have made mathematics as life. We have already set formulas in our mind, this plus this means this already. If you look at me with this facial features and you are speaking to me in this tonality means you are disrespecting me. That 2 plus 2, 4 is already fixed and we are living mathematics. As long as you keep on living mathematics, the result would be misery. Mathematics is a beautiful phenomena. Keep it in the zone of mathematics and wherever it is applied. Acknowledge and be aware that life is a phenomena in itself and you should be living life, not mathematics, not philosophy, nothing in that zone. So everything should have its place, organized. Science is science, philosophy is philosophy, psychology is psychology, life is life. Yeah? Everything should support life. Everything should be making this life more beautiful. Life has its own phenomena, comes with teaching within the nature. So right from today, keep exploring and expanding your awareness by simply observing the nature. If you observe the nature, a whole lot of wisdom will come automatically. As I told you, within the zone of speed, we have lost the depth. Let's get back that depth. The moment you get back that depth, you won't see this stress, anxiety, and depression happening. Because you have enjoyed, let's say there is a beautiful park, and you have simply ran through it, and you're walking and enjoying the whole scene. Anyways, you are passing it. If you lose the depth with the speed, anxiety is inevitable. Always keep the physical body fit. 50% of the job will be done there. No matter how much positive you think, no matter how beautiful you are as a person, if your physical body is not supporting that, it doesn't work. So first focus on physical body. Eat well, sleep well, rest well. Very, very necessary. So if you prioritize that, most of the things that you are doing mentally would be much more easy. That should be motivating you. So if I do any mental activities, that will be more easy. And sleep literally differs from one person to another person, because we are in the era of influencers and influences and social media and this and that. Please don't make it a phenomena or a philosophy that sleeping more than 5 hours is wrong. Some people might need 8 hours and they'll feel intimidated. Oh no, this person is living only, sleeping for only 3 hours. Such a healthy person. Most of those people are my clients, treating themselves for anxiety and depressions. So please, keep it open. Don't make it a philosophy and a phenomena. No, only sleep 3 hours, otherwise you will be wasting your life. People will be wasting their lives. And whatever you do, establish a routine and be regular in that. The phenomena is all about whatever I'm trying to learn, I trace it for some time. Keep tracing, keep engraving, keep deepening it so that it becomes the second nature of you. Lecturing, telling, saying, and motivating people is awesome, good. Becoming that is necessary. In the last session, this is what I have emphasized. It's all about whatever you hear, whatever you say, walk the talk. Become that. The whole journey, of course, will start with, I don't know what I don't know. I don't even know why I'm miserable. The moment I'm aware why I'm miserable, please start working upon that, gather more skills, gather more resources, become that. Don't leave that journey until you become what you are saying. Yeah? And it's an easy job. Most of the time people literally ask me, have you become? Are you doing it? It's an easy job. It's absolutely easy job to do that. And a beautiful phenomena coming from neuroplasticity. If one person on this planet can do it, the other person can learn to do that. So if one thing is happening on this planet, it's positive, possible, potential. Anybody can learn to do it. Yeah? Do the things that have personal meaning for you. Have the depth. Always focus on the depth in things that you are doing rather than doing fast. I absolutely acknowledge the trends that are happening. 5 points to get out of anxiety. Do this for 5 days and you will be out of anxiety. People are doing it for 50 days, nothing is happening. Don't make it fast. Don't make it a phenomena. Don't make it a philosophy. Do this 5 times, do this. It's a journey. Acknowledge that your anxiety is not a current affair. It didn't happen in one day. You have not woke up one fine day and you are saying that I'm anxious. No, it didn't happen that way. There is a whole lot of programming in your muscular memory, in your cellular memory, in your neurotic memories, and everything is programmed with that. To reprogram it, it will require at least 10% of time. So if you have been there for 3 years, at least give it 3 months to recover from that. 1 day, 5 day, 1 lecture won't help it. So please bring back the depth. Avoid the speed. Speed is very good, but doesn't help as a consciousness itself. If you are looking at the collective consciousness, moving to the next level, have the depth. If you lose the depth, you will be unrooted. Yeah? The thing to emphasize here is, again, we have spoken about this in previous sessions, about the voids that we have. The voids are emptinesses that we have most of the time, and this emptiness literally creates the disturbance, which will switch off my creativity. The best thing is to have one fixed relationship that will fulfill a whole lot of things in life. Most of the time, this expectations is towards the spouses or parents or partners or ABC, XYZ. That is not the zone of fulfillment. Most of the time, disappointments happen. So please turn yourself to one fixed connection. It could be a divine connection. It could be a God, whatever you believe in. That connection is very necessary. That will fill that emptiness. The intention is to fill that emptiness, fill that void. And whenever you feel it's out of control, please seek professional help. Please take time to mention just one intention before that. Tell them that today I'm feeling overwhelmed. I feel like speaking to someone and I cannot hold this anymore. If you can please listen to me. My intention is to just vent out. Mention this and then carry on, so that you minimize the damage to the other person.